first aid, do some kind of thing for scholarship, life-saving, music, safety, thanks, cooking, swimming, you have all those things, I'm sure. So those are basic, this is sort of agriculture, have to look and see the rest of them. Horsemanship, fishing, yeah.
Yeah. Horsemanship is a current one.
Looking at your merit badge stats, all those have green borders, so they didn't have the difference between, I'm assuming, Eagle Scout
Apparently not.
required and regular merit badge.
Apparently not.
Today you have to get X number of Eagle Scout required versus a lefty one, and that's how they distinguish today between the two. The Eagle Scout required has a silver border.
Oh, okay, see, they're all green.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing that's different between when he got Eagle and when you all are gonna get Eagle is he didn't have to do a service project.
Right. No,
They added it a year after he got Eagle. 65, I looked that up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They added physical fitness though when I got my Eagle.
Yeah. And you didn't do an Eagle project. You didn't do an Eagle service
Not that I
project.
remember.
We looked it up. So there have been changes.
First aid merit badge brought back a memory. Now, this is unattached to Troop 5 because it goes back to the troop I was in Pennsylvania. First aid. At that time, the only method taught for unconscious people was the Schaefer method, prone, horizontal on the ground, artificial respiration, resuscitation, to encourage breathing. You may not be familiar with that. We lay the victim down, face down, we got it on his back and got our hands along the lower back and pumped to get air in and out of his lung. Well, that's what I was taught. And that, I'm trying to make a point. That teaching remained with me for some time. It's now been replaced with a much better method with which you're familiar. But it called to mind, the first aid merit badge comment, called to mind when I was now employed by Phillips and had work out here at the research center. And one day, a colleague and I were driving out to the research center from downtown offices, and I saw in a bank of transformers fenced somebody lying on the ground and apparently in trouble. So I said, this was Emery Pitcher. I said, Emery, I think we have a problem here. Take the car, get medical attention. I'm going to see if I can help the guy. And so he drove off, and I went to the cage. And now I began to remember all that I'd been taught as a scout. And that's what I'm trying to convey to you guys. The things that you are being taught in scouting and elsewhere should remain with you if you give them attention. Anyway, I remember the instructions were take the victim and clear him of the wires. Well, there was no wire down. This was not a fallen wire. Apparently, the tool he was working with inadvertently crossed the wires and got to him and laid him out in the electrical shock. So I turned him over, got him on his stomach, and got on his back and began to pump like we had been taught. And then I remembered some other things. The instructions were that be careful when you work on somebody like this, because when he comes to, when he regains consciousness, he will throw you off. And that means a danger you're going to be thrown into the very wires that felled him. So I was alert for that. And sure enough, it happened. Where he did get up and threw me off, and I was protecting myself. So no damage occurred. But now, the second point I want to make, and this is sort of a very personal one, from which I hope you will draw a lesson too. This became a big deal in the Phillips Company. employee saves employee's life, you know, safety counts and all that sort of thing. So they had a big ceremony a couple of months out at the research center, and they presented me with some kind of a badge or honor or ribbon or something, and made a big hullabaloo about how important it is. And all this is true. What they were saying was true. How important it is that we learn these safety messages. But the lesson I learned was this, and the Phillips Petroleum Company should also have learned the same lesson. Where was the victim? He was not to be found. I remember his name well. It's carved on one of the medals I got. And the lesson I want to tell you guys, that when someone does a great service for you, like saving your life or binding up a broken arm in an accident or something, find a way somehow to go to that person and thank him for the good work he did for you. The second part of that is the part that I failed at. When you work on somebody and be of assistance to them, when they recover, you go find them also and say how happy you are that he survived and everything is okay. I think in both cases, artificial shame prevented that from happening. And that's what I'm telling you, not to let that interfere with the kind of decent things that you should do. So should the big company. The big company should have done something for that victim, because of course he was ashamed that he had got in trouble and was a victim of carelessness or inattention or something other. That's a hard thing to admit, and it's a hard thing for a company, for a supervisor to let that victim know that everything is okay. You've learned a lesson. You've taught the rest of us a great lesson too. Do you hear my plea, all of you?
Yes, sir.
What you're supposed to do? Don't let shame, because you were a hero, you saved the guy's life. Don't let that fiction get in the way of you doing the proper thing of showing him how happy you are he survived, and give him a chance to show gratitude to you, because the victim also needs a way to close that incident. Now, was there a question I deferred? Oh,
What else do y'all remember?
hey, I remember back to the last day.
Oh, back to the
On the
52
list
mile
of
hike.
boys,
Yes,
is there a Dismang?
uh-huh, there is.
What's his first?
Don't know, it just has last names.
Oh, just last names.
Jerry.
Well,
Yes.
Jerry.
Jerry, you're right.
Thank you. Well, on the last hike into Camp Pioneer in Arkansas, at nighttime, me with bad indigestion and having to stop frequently, Jerry Dismay was one of the stragglers, and he was giving every sign he was not going to finish the trip. He was willing to lie down on the field and sleep. He was worn out and tired. So it was, I think, Jim Carroll and I hoisted him between us, and we forced him to complete that journey. We practically carried him. Jerry Dismay finished the trip, a little bit on his own power, a bunch on the power of two other guys. He made it to the trip. Well, as a result of, let's say, some years later, Jerry Dismay became an officer in the Air Force. And I said, man alive, isn't that something? If we hadn't been there, if we hadn't forced him to do this, he may have not gone that way.
Yeah.
Another lesson. Anything else?
Can you talk about any of maybe the religious awards that you guys had earned or helped
Religious award?
religious awards, cause according to that history that Sean provided, you were responsible for the troops
Well,
for
Yeah.
a while.
Several times.
we had frequent meetings through the course of the year on, anybody interested in taking the merit badge, no, it wasn't a merit badge, the award,
Yeah.
the religious reward for auditory Dei, to the altar of God. And I became the pusher for that because I thought it was important for every Catholic scout to learn all he could about, at that early age, learn all he could about the church. Unfortunately, it wasn't that way because most of it was on the ceremonies, on the vestments, and on the procedures the priest goes through, rather than the meaning of all that the Mass is about. But we did it, and as a result, I guess there were 4 or 5 classes I've forgotten, in which, for reasons unknown to me, I was awarded some medals, along with the Auditory Dei, and these were given to us in the cathedral in Tulsa by Bishop Beltran, and I was awarded, I don't know why, and I really don't like to talk about this. We can't find them now.
Yeah.
I got 3 medals. One was a St. George medal.
St. George,
And I don't know what it is.
Bronze Pelican, perhaps?
yes, bronze
Yeah.
pelican, bronze pelican. The bronze pelican was one of them,
Yeah,
and St. George was one of them.
and then there was another one. We can't find the medals
And
at
I
my
remember
house.
seeing them growing up, but I don't know where they are now.
When I kick the bucket and the house is cleaned out, you'll find
We'll
them.
find them. Where is Mother when we need her?
That's right. She would know.
She would know.
Well,
Have you all gotten that one? Auditory Dei?
Not yet.
'Cause
I've
that-
heard of it.
That's the this age,
It's the middle age of scouting with
Okay.
St. Pius being the older.
the older one, okay,
Or Bowie Day being the younger.
yeah.
Yes.
We
And that's the one the PAC's getting.
we actually, this coming Sunday, we have, kids younger than visitors that are in Pac 5 that are going to see the bishop to get, I think there's 3 of them that are getting the light of Christ, and then there's, 3 of them getting the Parbuli Day.
Yeah,
So, now again, that's the one, those are the 2 medals right below what you received.
yeah, right
And
below
everything.
Boy Scout age.
And I guess my next question is, I believe that there are 2 more above the adult Prairie Day. Did either one of you earn either one of those? 'Cause
No.
I don't know if the Bronze Pelican and the St.
I had
George,
the
if those are
Auditory Day.
bigger.
There is a golden ad Artory Day.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he
Maybe
has.
those are the other 2.
Yeah, he had, Bobby got the Auditory Day, but
Our
that's,
Day did exist.
Yeah,
I
that's the
know
only
that.
one I
don't
remember.
know if they all existed.
oh,
Seems like the number has
Oh, yeah.
expanded.
oh, there's a bunch of them.
But they didn't exist.
I don't know if
when I
he'll-
was- No, I don't think.
Yeah, see, I remember Daddy getting that one and that one, but I don't know
My dad
if,
has one.
Another question.
and are they,
Really?
Not sure.
yeah, I don't know.
Tiered.
Okay, another question?
About the medals, are they for Catholic Scouts?
Yes.
These
Yes.
Well, I'm Baptist, that's why. I
Okay,
asked.
the Baptist Association has a religious award for Baptists.
Alright, well, I'm gonna have to talk to my pastor. about
Exactly.
We can help you with
Right.
getting the right book and everything and help you work with him to get that.
In
Yeah,
fact,
there's a whole number of them.
Aren't
And I know there's
there
more
books
now
at
than
the
there
Scout
were
office?
Yes, you
in
can.
my day.
The books
Yeah.
are available at the Scout office.
The-
We can get them.
yeah. I think every religion has their own, and they may not have multiple, they may not have different levels.
Right, the
You know,
numbers
the numbers may be different, but they all have one. Yeah,
Another question about the 50-mile hike. For purposes of equipment and what you all prepare to take with you and divide up amongst the boys and everything, what, did they have like dehydrated food to,
oh, that I
like
don't know.
things like they provide at various camping stores now?